Whew. Back. Hey pup, back. Finally. You didn't get to go this morning, did you? Hey pups. Yeah, I managed to, I got Sarah to wake up, I don't know, 5 o'clock this morning. We're out the door by 5:30 and drove to a place where I was hoping to call up one of two absolute gargantuan monster bull elk that I know of. I just want to call them up and see if I can get some wicked film of them. And check a trail camera that I left there. I only had one when I was there last time. Nothing on the camera. Bummer. Nothing on the camera and no elk this morning. Kind of sucks. Because you're all revved up, right? The last few times I've been lucky and it's done well, including helping my friend. His daughter cut her tag, but it didn't happen. But I did check out a small creek. And, oh my God. It was jam loaded with big steelhead. I couldn't believe the numbers. I got a feeling that a lot of them are salmon, maybe in the bottom, I'm not sure, but I'm going to find out. I don't think so, though. They're not acting like spawning salmon. And none of them are, sound is, slobber mouth down there on the floor. So, yeah, this is the fish in the very bottom. Might be some salmon mixed in there, but I got a funny feeling it's big cutthroat with big steel. I know there's big steelhead. I videotaped some of them. So, now I'm torn. I was going to continue chasing elk, but then I thought, maybe I should get up at first light tomorrow and go and see if I can battle a fish. And then throw the GoPro down and see if I can't get some awesome video of those wild steelhead down there. Do that in the morning, and then in the evening, I may go drift the river and salmon fish and bear hunt. After that, later on in the day. After a day of getting chores done and all my other goals. So there. In the meantime, check out this. I threw the drone up this morning. It was foggy, but I threw the drone up and it busted through the fog, and check out this treasure that we saw up there this morning. Very, very cool. Now anyways, some people out there might freak out and say, hey, you're not allowed to use drones and hunt. I wasn't hunting this morning. I was actually pursuing a non-huntable elk herd with my cameras. I thought, well, maybe if I can't find them on the deactivated roads, maybe I could fly the drone up and see if they're in a couple of logging cuts around the valley, but no go. Oh well, next time, right? So, I'm home. And I got a lot of voices to get shared. So I'm going to keep my babble to a low nothing and knock out some more voices, important voices that need to be shared and heard. Voice from the people, right? Now, hi Steve. I have listened to the emails you read out. One email reminded me of a long distant memory of my own. Probably no connection to a Sasquatch, but I'll let you decide that. I've always thought it had to be a gorilla. One morning, 40 plus years ago when I was around 11 or 12 years old, I was laid in bed The light was just beginning to peek through the curtains, yet it was still very dark inside. I had my bedroom door open, and I could see down the hallway to my mom and dad's bedroom. I could see the light peeking from behind their curtains. I looked back at mine, which were of a lighter material, so the light outside was brighter. I turned my head to look back to my parents' curtains and couldn't see anything because there was a huge black mass in the doorway blocking the light. It made a low guttural growl and frightened the bejesus out of me. I froze, held my breath whilst I slid under the covers, where I stayed until I fell asleep. When I woke in the morning light, I ran downstairs and demanded to know what they were playing at that night that had frightened me. My parents and my brother had no clue what I was talking about. And this is a particularly odd occurrence, as I live in the UK and Sasquatch don't frequent this part of the Northeast. But if they can cloak themselves or travel between dimensions, something very odd happened. And I still have that memory seared into my mind like it was yesterday. Regards, Diane. Well, Diane, I can't help you out myself, but I can assure you that you're not the first one to email in that flavor experience. You're not. And that is a frickin' alarming experience, right? What do you say to that, besides how many people listening right now are shaking their heads? Happened to me too. A lot of people email in something familiar. If you have had the similar experience you want to add to this or speak to the emailer, throw it down in the comment section below this video, right? And let her know what you know. This is titled Rock and Log Throwing from Something Unseen. Okay, Steve, please do not mention my name because of connect it will make to my oldest brother. Excuse me. I grew up in a small town in the Appalachian Mountains in North Georgia. And during my younger years, I had a few encounters which I believe were a result of these beings. Though I had encounters, I never actually saw one. I'll share one of these encounters with you. My first encounter was first year of high school. Leading up to this encounter, one of my brothers and I had small rocks thrown at us while we were on the porch along the side of the house. Our house was pretty far back into the woods with an open field in the front and forest surrounding the other three sides. One rock was thrown at us from the woods to the back of the house. Another night, a rock was thrown from the woods directly next to that side porch. They were never thrown hard. It was always more of a high toss, with the rocks coming down almost vertically. With that in mind, this is the encounter. My mother had to go out of town one weekend for her work. Usually when this happens, my dad stayed with us. But this weekend, he went with her. That night we had light rain, which we do most days in Georgia. I had fallen asleep before my older brother. I have 3 older brothers, and 2 of them were involved in this. My brother woke me up around 1 a.m., saying he heard what he thought was going to be a roll of thunder. But it suddenly stopped. And after a pause, something hit the house hard enough to make it shake. We immediately speculated that something had rolled a large rock off the roof of the house, and it landed on one of the porches. When we worked up enough courage to go and look, we didn't see much of anything. Nothing on the side porch or front porch were out of place. We decided we'd go back to bed, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong and that we should check the back of the house. So, my older brother went out with a flashlight and looked around. When the beam from the flashlight landed on the far side of the back of the house, he stopped and went, The way he said this made the hair on my neck stand up. I walked where he was standing and looked to see a massive log, over 3 feet in diameter and 3 foot long, laying below the window on the far side of the house. We had recently bucked the tree this log came from. The tree was alive when we cut it down, so the log was still very heavy. Something in me told me to watch the tree line at about 1 o'clock of the position and direction we were facing. I don't know why, but I just knew that something had thrown it, and that something was watching us from this. My brother and I ran back inside, freaked out, and decided we should call our oldest brother. Our oldest brother lived a few hundred feet away from our house in the field in front. What? Our oldest brother lived a few hundred feet away from our house in the field in front of us. Since he was the sheriff and a former SWAT operator, we felt he'd know how to assess this situation. On the phone, he told us to stay inside, and he'd check it out. We watched from the windows as he walked up to the house with his flashlight and pistol, checking everything out. When he came to the door, all he said was, "Well, that's definitely a big log." He wanted us to stay with him and his wife, so we went with him. When she asked what happened, all he said was, "I don't know, but it's weird." He put a shotgun out in the living room with us, and we all tried to sleep. I remember not sleeping at all because I kept watching the window, just waiting for something to come through after us. When the sun finally came up, he took us back to the house and showed us what he had found. The log had been taken from behind our house next to the woodshed and somehow accelerated so fast that it went airborne of a small back between the woodshed and the house. Now, I've seen logs go down the bank and they always roll or flip end over end. Nothing crazy like this. The log was moving so fast that it was airborne when it hit the house just below a window. It had so much force that it forced the nails of the siding to flex about 1/8 of an inch or so. There was a clear indentation where it hit. After hitting the house, the log hit the ground while apparently flipped and bounced. The log hit the ground while apparently flipped and bounced. This flung mud up the wall and left a deep cut in the ground. The log still had enough force after the bounce to take paint off the wall in a second area. He had concluded something had rolled the log, remember the rolling thunder my brother heard, but rolled it much harder than any of us were capable of doing. We don't speak of that night for almost 10 years. I recently asked my oldest brother about that night, and he is also convinced it is one of these beings. I know that's not a lot to go off in this story, but we've heard and seen things in those mountains that makes us believe without a doubt these things or something like them were involved. Thank you for reading this email, and I apologize for the length. Again, please not mention my name. Okay, man, I got you. All safe here. I think your brother might know a little more. Maybe if he wants to send it, maybe you could throw this video down to him and see if you can encourage him to share with us what else he knows, maybe, possibly. I'll bet you he's got some more. There you go. Another hard to explain incident, rural, in North Georgia. Again. Here's another one. Steve, after seeing your show, I've religiously watched and been fascinated by the stories. Background on myself. I'm a lifelong Colorado resident going on 59 years now. I'm an avid big game hunter, fly fishing fanatic, and pheasant hunter. I'm a rookie in the outdoors and feel almost alive when I'm away from work and the city. I've had a couple of unexplained events, but never a full-on experience with these beings. My wife, however, had a disturbing up-close view of one when she was younger. This happened to her around the early 70s in Bailey, Colorado, at a resort that was called Moordale Village. It was a kind of a dude ranch outside Denver, about 35 miles west in the mountains. She was spending the weekend there with her family doing the typical mountain horseback riding and camping thing. They were staying in one of the cabins on the property, and a room had a bunk bed. She had the top bunk, and there was a small rectangular window next to it. She was up there relaxing one afternoon and noticed someone looking at her out of the corner of her eye. She assumed it was one of the family playing a joke on her until she looked directly at it, and it was a Sasquatch. Peering into the window with just a pane of glass separating her from this beast. She screamed and walked off. Her parents ran into the room asking what's wrong, and she told them a big hairy guy was in the window. Nobody at that time really knew of Bigfoot or Sasquatch, so they went to track it down. The window it looked in was 7 feet off the ground. Her dad saw bare footprints in the damp dirt leading away from the cabin into the forest. He talked to the owner of the ranch, saying they had a peeping Tom. The owner said they have a hairy man of the forest, but he means no harm. My wife has told this story to many people, but mostly they ridicule her as just a young girl's overactive imagination. We went back there recently and the names changed, but the buildings are still being used to this day. I wanted to see the window myself. I'm 6'2" and I would have needed a ladder to see into that window. The area is called the Lost Creek Wilderness and encompasses 120,000 acres. To this day they have sightings in there and even have a small museum dedicated to Bigfoot in Bailey. There's a YouTube channel called blank blank, I don't know who this is, that delves into it more if you're interested. Thanks, Steve, for being so brutally honest in your approach to this subject. Keep hunting, fishing, and enjoying the wild places. We do have to share them with these beings, but they do a pretty good job of keeping us at a safe distance, it seems. Dave Plattis makes some interesting arguments about people disappearing in the woods, but I think that's another unexplained forum outdoors. You can use my name, not too worried about what people think of me. Jeff Perea. I hope I pronounced your last name correctly, Jeff. I apologize if I didn't. Sometimes I suck at the pronunciations, but we get the message across clearly, right? We get it across clearly. All those academics that are just disgusted with me. All right. Appreciate you sending that in, man. Send more. If you learn more, send more, all right? Appreciate you. Welcome to the club. The Club of No Return. The Club of No Return is a big club. It's not just on this topic, it's much more, right? Once you accept the fact that we've been educated the wrong way, taught the wrong things, taught lies, once you accept that as fact, you become become a member of the Club of No Return, right? You just do. Hey Steve, I'm 62 years old and I have 2 stories to share. In the mid to later 70s, I worked in a shipyard in northern BC. I think I read this. Yeah, I did. Read this. Read it. It's a short one. What the hell? There's thousands of new people here. What's going on, Bubs? I'm 62 years old. I have 2 stories to share. In the mid to late 70s, I worked in a shipyard in northern BC. The on-site security guard was a big man. In his late 60s to early 70s, he stood 6'3" in his aged and hunched over state and was about 260 pounds. His story. In my early days at 30 years, I stood at 6'6" at 280 pounds and solid. I was prospecting in the Hazelton area mountains. On my return trip to civilization, I was walking down a logging road, cutback after cutback. The next cut in the road was about 150 yards away with a small grove of trees in the turn. As I'm walking down, 2 of them came around the corner holding hands, a big one and a little one. They walked off into the road into the shade. As I come up to the point at which they stepped off the road, I could see them standing in the shade. As they were not a threat, I kept my rifle slung over my shoulder. I waved, carried on walking. Just before I rounded the corner, I looked back to see them come out and carry on up the road. I spent 30 years in the bush, heard a lot of different sounds I could not explain. That was the only time I ever seen one. Skip ahead to September 2019. My lady and I are living 5 kilometers south of Golden, BC. Across the valley from us is the entrance to Canyon Creek, which is appropriately named as the creek comes out of a pretty much boxed canyon. There's quite a lot of cattle in the valley in the area, and everyone seems to have a dog. One night, we're sitting on the deck having a beer. All the cattle in the valley were yelling out. As well, all the dogs were barking at the same time. Over the top of all this racket, a scream came from back in the canyon. It seemed to reverberate through me. My hair stood on end. My lady immediately jumped up and went inside. It must have affected all that heard it in the same way as the whole valley went silent for about 3 seconds. And then the animals resumed their yelling. I have a pretty good idea of what I heard that night. I wish I could have recorded it. The only confirmation of this event for me is, every time I think about it, my hair stands on end. Bob. Yeah, that's a common pattern too. All of us have the hair on end when we recall experiences related to this topic. Every time I've told my experience to my friends, I notice my hair stands on end every single time. Every single time I go back to that evening, and other times my hair and my body turns to wire. Still today. Every single time. Here's another one. This is titled Sasquatch Experience. Hi Steve, first of all I want to say thank you. I really enjoy the stories and what you do. I probably speak for all of us when I say, quote, this is really helping many good, honest, hardworking people, end quote. And I know it takes a lot of time and effort on your end, and I can't say thank you enough. I'd like to share my story with you, brother. Bring it on. I grew up in the backwoods of northeast Alabama. Like many people, from the time I could walk, I was outdoors. I grew up in a small farm, and from the age of 6, I was hunting or fishing. I've hunted white-tailed boar, turkey, and just about anything else you can think of. I've even tangoed with an alligator down in the swamps of Baton Rouge. That's another story for another time. I've never been close to a brown bear in the wild, but I've seen a few black bears in my life. I did 7 years active duty in the Army. I've been in some real shit that I struggle with from day to day. I say all this to give you a little insight on my grit. I'm not scared of much, and I've been in some shitty situations in my life, but most would be horrified to be in. But out of all those years in Afghanistan and Iraq, none of that scared me like this. Back in 2000, I was in high school. Me and my dad went to one of our favorite hunting spots. I can't tell you how many deer I smoked out of this tree. It was my honey hole. It's way off the road and about a 3-mile walk to get to the spot. So we got there first thing in the morning, and the plan was to hunt all day. For the majority of the day, it went just like it always has. Peaceful. Seen a few small bucks. I was in high hopes of a good one coming out on me. The afternoon was setting in, and it was prime time. Then all of a sudden I hear a whoop in front of me, which I didn't know what it was at the time, just it was strange. Then about 20 minutes later I hear a heavy-footed person walking between me and my dad, walking towards the direction the whoop came from, and was walking away from any roads. It headed deeper into the woods. I thought it was strange because it was so late. It continues walking between me and my dad. I set my eyes on a small clearing that it was getting close to. I was thinking, this dude's about to walk right out and I'm going to see him. Then all of a sudden he stopped. This creepy feeling came over me like straight terror. I had no idea, but it was just dread. Then after a few minutes of deathly quiet, this thing roared so loud it made my chest rattle. The hair on my arm stood up. My dad calls me and says, and is like, did you hear that? I said, yes, it came from in between me and you. Dad said he couldn't see it, and to just stay put, let it just move through. Thinking about it now, I'd rather gotten down and headed out then, but my dad always knew what to do. So I sat there. Now during this time, my head is on a swivel, my ears are peeled back, and I'm on edge. This thing hasn't moved at all. Now it's getting dark, and I'm going to have to come out. The whole time I'm thinking I got to walk right into where this roar came from to get out. My dad calls and says, I think we're good, get down. Meet me at my tree and we'll go head to the truck. I told my dad this thing's still there. I heard it walking through the woods. It stopped, roared, and hasn't moved. He was like, it probably has you, just didn't hear it. No, I think he probably meant it probably passed you. You just didn't hear it. Yeah, right. Either way, I had to get down and walk right towards this thing, which worried me because all I had was a bow and a knife. I packed my stand-up, grabbed my bow, turned my headlamp on, and made my way. Dreadfully, walking closer and closer to where this thing is. My heart's pounding. I still have this fear, and it's so hard to overcome. But my feet felt like they had 25-pound weights on them. But I pushed through. As I walked towards my dad, I noticed I'm being trailed. I step, it steps. I stop, it stops. Followed me all the way till I got to my dad. I get to him and I tell him, Dad, something is tailing me. He don't believe me. In Alabama, there isn't any game that'll follow you or stalk you. So, me and Dad make our way towards the truck. My dad starts to notice it too. We step, it steps. Never in my life has this happened. The fear these beings can put on you is unreal. I could tell my dad was spooked too. This being walked upright, bipedal, sounded like a 500-pound man walking through the woods. It followed us about 3 miles all the way to the truck, letting us know the whole time. We wasn't alone. We finally made it to the truck after about an hour and a half of walking, threw our stuff in and got the hell out of there. To this day, neither me nor my dad has went back to that spot. My dad won't talk about it, but if I ever bring it up, his arms get goosebumps. In all my years in the Army, rucking through alligator-infested swamps, Afghanistan, Iraq, combat, nothing has put the fear in me that this being did. Sorry about that sentence. Let me do it one more time. In all my years in the Army, rucking through alligator-infested swamps, Afghanistan, Iraq, combat, nothing has put fear in me that this thing did. This being did. I'm starting to get tired. Not much sleep. I'm out of the Army now. I stay away from crowds. And the one thing that used to be fun for me is hard to do. But I agree with you, Steve. You can't let these beings keep you from doing what you love. Hunting, fishing, camping, or whatever your flavor of fun is. Never quit. Face the fear. Overcome it. It'll always be there in the back of your mind. But it will get easier. One last thing. You are 100% right. These beings can sense us. Thanks for everything you do. Keep up the good fight. You're an inspiration for us all, Michael. Hey, man. Appreciate you coming forward with that. That is a real familiar flavor of experience, too. We've had a lot of people email when they hear something or even seen something from their stand as a boy, and their dad or their brother or their uncle's in the next stand only 100 yards away. I thought I'd read that before, but I haven't. I know I haven't read that before. But we have had a lot of hunters have had that similar experience. For certain, it's a pattern. One after the other, right? It's endless. It's endless. This make-believe stuff is endless, isn't it? Hey? This folklore with what I think it's safe to say now, probably 1 million plus, who knows how many witnesses, right? Globally, who knows? All these witnesses. Dear Steve, love your channel. Yeah, my utmost respect, sir. My name is Johnny Honeycutt. I'm originally from Florida. I've been living in Georgia since 1990. That's when I received my honorable discharge from the USMC Semper Fi. I have a couple of experiences to share. When I was a kid living in Tampa, Florida, there was an incident that happened in my grandparents' neighborhood. I think it was 1976. I was 9 years old at the time, but I can remember my grandmother calling my mother on the phone and told her to turn on the news. We only had 3 channels back then. A large hairy man / skunk ape had been spotted in the town of Gibsonton, Gibsonton, excuse me, and on my grandparents' gravel road. Stay. The news said that the creature threw 2 full-grown St. Bernard dogs through a lady's front door before a group of men, including my grandfather, chased it into the Allafy River. Allafy River, A-L-L-A-F-Y River. Skip forward to November 17th, 2017. I'm living in Georgia. A small town called Lyerly. L-Y-E-R-L-Y. In the northwest corner of the state. We live only a few miles from the Alabama state line. My brother and I were on our way to go fishing for crappie. at Lake Weiss. Weiss? Wise? W-I-E-S-E in Cedar Bluff, Alabama. It's between 8 and 9 o'clock a.m. The weather was cool and foggy that morning, and my brother was driving. Visibility was about 60 yards maybe. I was keeping a watch out for deer because they will run right out in the road or into your vehicle. I didn't spot any deer close to the road, but as we came around a long curve in the road, I spotted something 30 feet away in the drainage ditch. A humongously large, upright, walking creature. This thing was jet black, covered with hair, not fur. We were only driving 35 miles an hour because of the fog, so I saw this thing for a good 10 seconds before it was out of sight. 10 seconds is a long time in wildlife sighting time. Time that one. Watch your watch. Watch 10 seconds. It's a good chunk of time to take in a sight. So I saw this thing for about a good 10 seconds before it was out of my sight. Steve, I've seen a lot of things in my life, and I've always been able to explain what I saw. I went back to the same spot the next day. I took a measuring tape, and where its shoulders came to was 11 and a half feet. Shoulders. I measured the height of a brush pile that it walked behind, and its shoulders came to the top of it. At least 4 feet across the shoulders and about 36 inches from its chest to its back. Holy shit. The ground was too hard for tracks. I don't care what anyone says. These things are real and I know it. Thanks to you and your channel. Keep up the good work. Feel free to use my name. I'm 53 years old and I know what I saw. Semper Fi. Appreciate you, man. I 100% believe you. No problem here. I know you saw what you saw. That's one big SOB you saw. That's a big dude. Appreciate you sending that in, man. Big time. And another one. Langley, British Columbia encounter. Hi, Steve. Firstly, howdy neighbor. It's a secondhand story, as I wasn't involved. But it happened to two of my closest friends that I've known since elementary school, and these guys aren't full of shit. One of them told me this story briefly, and it's not something he likes to talk about or even think about. This happened on the grounds of Noel Booth Elementary School, which is surrounded by a park and forest on all sides, including a flooded gravel pit with a very small island in the middle, next to South Langley's Fire Hall. Anderson Creek runs through the park. It would have been between 2001-2003 summertime. My two friends were walking through the grounds of the school during the daytime, either on a weekend or when school was out for the summer, as there are trails that act as good shortcuts to get between Brookswood and Fern Ridge. On the southeastern side where the grass sports field is, which is adjacent to the gravel pit, they saw a bipedal figure shorter than 3 feet tall. It saw them and instantly ran the length of the field, 300 feet into the brush in a split second, like a streak, inhumanely fast. And that's about it. The dude had tears in his eyes while relating this to me and hasn't spoken about it since. Thanks for the good work you do, Dylan. Wow. Sounds like that had an impact on your buddy. I wonder if they watched this channel at all. I wonder. We don't get that description very often. Although the speed that your friend witnessed is definitely a strong pattern, without a doubt. We get speed descriptions absolutely similar to that all the time. With a under 3 foot tall dude ripping, not that common. Have we had a lot of people email in about seeing something that small? Yep. Yes, we have. Absolutely. Excuse me, which reminds me of the logger who I mentioned the other day again. Who saw that small one. Whatever he did. Missed a foothold or whatever he did and came tumbling down that bank, and the big one grabbed him, jumped up the bank. Still got to talk to him yet. I'll get a hold of him. I don't know. Sounds like your buddy didn't deal with that too well. I don't know if we should encourage him to watch this video or not. I don't know. I'll leave that up to you, right? Some people, they don't want to deal with it. They don't have to. We don't force people to do shit around here. I mean, especially at this point, there's enough witnesses now. We don't have to torment somebody to spill their guts when they don't want to think about it ever again. But anyway, what else do I got to share? I have one new potential something. The one on next door, right outside this window, through the forest to the neighbor's house, where that autistic young man lives with his mother. That autistic boy knew my name and Sarah's name when they pulled up and stopped in the front of the house. He knew our names. Steve and Sarah, I said. Steve and Sarah. And we hadn't met them yet. Right? And he doesn't watch YouTube. So that was interesting. But anyway, very intelligent young man. He can't speak fluently. Not to us anyway. And he reacts differently with his emotions. But anyway, she texted Sarah yesterday. We were in my truck. We had little Ezra and the daughter with us. So she says, oh, I just got a weird text from Jackie. And I'm like, yeah, what's up? She said she's alarmed and worried because somebody was on her roof last night. Obviously, you know what I'm thinking, because how many times we heard that here. I'm like, what? What do you mean? She just says somebody, I don't know. She goes, I got to read the whole text. And I go, read it. And then she's texted back to her, and I said, how does she know somebody's on the roof? She said there's footprints smaller. She said the footprints were smaller than her son's. And it was around 5 in the morning. And it was raining. And she heard the footsteps on the roof of her house, and she's thinking one of the kooky neighbors somewhere out there is potentially tormenting her. I don't know. I know she does have a tough time because the previous owner of this place was an absolute psychopath, we found out, and stalked her. And stalked many other people, peeping and tomming and taking photos and all sorts of creepy ass shit, and put her through hell. Can't believe she didn't move. Not that it's hard enough having an autistic son and being alone, rural. But anyways, she's got some alpacas over there. Apparently they're screaming. The dog's going ape shit. And that's all I know. So, I'm pretty sure it wasn't a human being in the forest, through the forest, rural, on our dead-end road, at 5 o'clock in the morning in the rain, walking on the lady's roof. Right? So, that's all I know. Just like I said before, right? When I find out shit, I share it instantly. I don't even think twice about it. As it comes into me, I share it if I can, and maybe it makes sense, maybe it doesn't. Probably most of the time I shouldn't have just come right out and blurted it out before I heard or learned more, but I just do. Because it's like when I come here, I sit down, and I absolutely feel like I'm just talking with my buddies. That's who everybody here is. We're just a bunch of close friends shooting this shit. Trust the hell out of each other. And don't have to be careful about how we talk or how we deliver it or what we say. It's a safe place. That's what you call a safe place. Right? So, just explaining myself as I share it as it comes to me, and I don't think too much beforehand before blurting it out. Because I got nothing to hide, nothing to be scared of. Right? So you just speak it. Anyway, I guess I'll keep tabs on that. I asked Sarah to ask her if she took any photographs of these footprints. Not that it matters to me, I don't give a shit. I'm not giving it, it doesn't alarm me too much, I don't have too much concern. We have had something hit this house on the second floor up, which is high up, when Sarah was in the house. There's a couple odd things happen here. I'm not too concerned, but I do know that the river below us is full of salmon, and I do know of numerous people have had experiences on this river out back. Numerous. We've had people from this town comment on here saying flat out, you want to see one of these things, just walk the Stamp River. That's all you got to do. And I would agree with that. I would agree with what I know now. I would absolutely agree with that. If you really want to have an experience with one of these beings, just go to the head of this river by the, I'd say start by the fish hatchery. I'd start at the fish hatchery at about 1 o'clock in the morning, maybe midnight. Go by yourself and just start walking down the river. That's probably all you got to do. Right? If that's what you really think that you need. I'm good. I know they're there. I know they know I'm here. We're good. Just leave each other alone. But meanwhile, we're going to get to the bottom of why we're being lied to. Right? We're going, a lot of people argue about who or what these beings are. I'm not overly stressed about it myself. I want to know why we're being lied to. Right? I've said that from day one. As soon as you see one, you know we're being lied to. You know we're not being educated correctly. Right? Not in that public school system. No way. But we're slowly putting it together, right? Slowly putting it together. There's going to be some major shit coming in soon. Knowledge. But it's just right now for me. I mean, normally I'd just be out the door, boom, into the airport, gone. But not right now. This is my time of the year. This is my time. And I just cannot seem to. I think it would. I don't know what would happen to me if I left this province during hunting season. I don't know what would happen. I'd probably fall apart. Right? Wouldn't be too good. But I have to get some more meat. I have to do some more hunting, harvesting, filming, helping. And as soon as that's done, the airport's going to see my ass. And then shit is going to really start to rapidly roll. Here. Anyway, there you go. Now, I got to go move all our meat birds back into the original coop, which I made mink proof, so that little bastard doesn't go in there and pinch 2 chickens a night again. That was a little shitty. And to top it off, our turkeys that we ordered. I forget how many she ordered. 15 turkeys? There's only 2 left. All of them died within 2 days. So that had nothing to do with us. And of course, the place that supplies them doesn't want to take responsibility. Whatever. Anyway, I gotta move their asses, get their water over there, and keep this ball rolling. And tomorrow morning, I'll be up at 5 o'clock again in the morning, doing something. And then tomorrow evening, I'm gonna drift the river and film, potentially hunt, and fish. Right? Anyway, share my story at howtohunt.com. Get it to us. Get it up your chest. Get it out. And also, if you have been directly affected by some absolute dirtbags when it comes to this topic and you got the receipts, get it to us. Don't be scared. Just get it to us. I don't have to share your name publicly. You could share with me exactly who you are. You're safe here, but we want to know. Bring the receipts and share it, all right? Share my story at howtohunt.com. We'll be back again. Can't stop me.